Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by Keep the Past, we're joined by contributor, podcaster, and regular host Dan Gilman, and today he's joined by brothers Gene and Bill Barretta. Gene is an award-winning author and illustrator of several critically acclaimed books. He's also animated several films for Sesame Street and created storyboards and character designs for the Jim Henson Company. Quite the list of accomplishments, and his brother is no different. Bill joined the Jim Henson Company in 1991, landing the lead character on the ABC hit television series Dinosaurs, and soon after became one of the core Muppet performers, puppeteering and voicing several well-known characters. Now, over the last 30 years, he's also directed, executive produced, written, and coordinated for many Muppet projects. They're going to join me today to chat all about the art of storytelling and why the Muppets continue to be a household name. Welcoming now to the show are my superstars and experts on the microphone, the Barretta brothers, and of course, Dan Gilman. Welcome, my friends.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm really proud. I'm impressed with myself with that introduction.
Yeah, I had no idea, Gene. I had no idea what you've been doing.
Billy, we should talk more.
Yeah, let's call each other sometime.
Let's dive right in. You guys are hilarious. So you've both had incredible staying power, what we call as career storytellers. Gene, you've written and illustrated critically acclaimed books such as Dear Dear, Lincoln and Kennedy, Now and Ben, Neo, Leo, and Timeless Thomas. I love those titles. And in 2021, you even received, this is the most impressive of all, the NAACP Image Award nomination for your writing. That's a big nomination. And Bill, dear, you continue to play a pivotal role in the creations of the Muppets, whether you're puppeteering and voicing an iconic character like the Swedish Chef, or most recently writing and directing and executive producing. I mean, the Muppets Mayhem series. You are quite the superstar. Can you both share from your own stories a pivotal moment in your creative journey and how your paths have influenced each other?
Sure. Can I just first say that the best thing about the NAACP nomination was that I can now say I competed against LeBron James because he was also nominated, but we both lost. So it's a good icebreaker if I ever meet him.
Can I just start first for a second?
Yeah, take it away.
Only because I am the younger one. And so growing up, Gene was really the one who motivated everything we did creatively. So if he wasn't interested in movies and animation and the Muppets and all things creative, art, I probably would not be doing what I do because I was always a part of his plan, right? So if he wanted to make a movie, he came up with the idea and I was cast in it, and he would tell me to jump off the roof and die. And so I would do that. And or whatever it was, helping him do something. If he's making a clay animation, Gene would enlist the neighborhood kids and myself to be in these things that he would create. And also I should say that our family was a very entertaining family just to begin with. So family parties were all about, Gene and the older cousins would create these variety shows. And so I'm completely influenced by what Gene created and got, me interested in. It became just what I wanted to do because of him. So that's my 1.5 minute answer.
That's a hallmark moment right there.
Well, it's true.
Well, I guess, one thing I really took from Billy was that I'm more the homebody, and if it wasn't for him having the ability to just jump out into the world and take certain risks and get involved in things and show me an example of how you need to step out of your comfort zone, all that stuff I do would remain in my room. So I watched him and followed him to a degree when it came to letting people know what I do and pushing harder.
I love this story. You guys
look at us.
Look at you. Now, I know there are many people out there listening who hope to emulate your level of creative success. In fact, according to a 2023 Ravensbourne University study, 43% of young adults are interested in working in creative industries. And to go even further, a new Harris poll suggested that Gen Z is the most creative generation yet, holding significant value in this notion. So it's clear that we're living in a world booming with creativity now more than ever, certainly with incredible additions by the two of you.
Oh, you made me think of something, Zen. When you mentioned all that about this next generation, this current generation, when we were growing up and we were in our teens, doing something in the arts was such a rare thing. There's such a big difference now. Not many people went to school to be in the arts, a small percentage if there was. And if you told somebody what you wanted to do, it was like, oh, that's a nice fantasy,
Yep.
But
I agree.
Yeah, our parents were both, again, entertaining people. And I think back then, you didn't follow some of those dreams that I think were probably more artistic or supposedly unrealistic. You got married and you had a family, so they gave up their lives so that we could, they would push us, I think, and they could live through us a little bit. My father still would say, because, it was like, this is a big dream. You're going to Hollywood. My father was like, he would still say, oh, I was in my 30s. He was like, oh, you're still doing that acting, huh? So, it was like that kind of thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into my question. So are there any specific experiences that have significantly shaped your artistic vision?
I can tell you what led me to my career in book writing and illustrating. It was the Northridge earthquake of 1994, because I had moved out to LA, and I'd been through that. I was there for the riots and several regular earthquakes, and that one was just too much, and it really just threw me for a loop, and I left. And completely, my goal was to do similar to what Billy's doing. I wanted to be a film director, and I went to NYU Film School and the whole deal. But I just couldn't stay in LA, and I had to leave and regretted it for a period of time. But then when I look back, I think if I had not left and spent some difficult time trying to figure out what was next, I would never be doing the career that I think is ideal for me, because I'm still telling stories. I'm using my talents as an artist, and I work from home as a homebody would love to do. So
you got the best of all the worlds.
Yeah. And it would not have happened without some traumatic experience that really changed everything. Yeah.
Well, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There are no coincidences, and that earthquake was a catalyst to your journey. Now, let's shift to the Muppets. So fans, they didn't get to meet the full gang until the premiere of the original The Muppet Show in 1974. And since then, there have been a wide variety of films, TV shows, commercials, and even web series created featuring its characters. So long story short, the Muppets have certainly solidified themselves into history and pop culture, garnering a cult following and a legacy of their own. Now, in your opinions, how do you see the Muppets' influence on contemporary culture and entertainment as it stands today?
I think when we're trying to create things with the Muppets, we love the idea of everybody is different, and that's what makes them special, right? Is that they're not all trying to fit into one idea. And I think that's relevant to our world, right? We're all very different, and people think you're supposed to fit into a certain way or certain box or certain. And I just love the idea of continuing that message that being different is important, and that's what Jim would do. I didn't really get to work with Jim, but learning through the people that I've spent all these years with, he surrounded himself with different people, and not because they were alike, right? Or different artists, I should say, not because they were alike, but because they were different, and that would spark things, that would create maybe a tension, but then turn into something new and surprising. And so I think overall, a blanket idea with the Muppets is that we continue to try and do that and not just fit in and be saccharine in some way. And
And
we
that's
like to,
and
sorry, go
I
ahead.
feel and that's what's allowed them to maintain their popularity across all these generations.
I think so, is that there's something for everybody. A lot of people seem to think that Muppets are for kids. But we write for ourselves. We try to make ourselves laugh. And so with the Muppet Show Muppets, there's a lot of adult relationships and characters and situations, and the kids learn about that as they grow up. But until then, they're enjoying the colors and the shapes and the fun and the explosions and the silliness and the slapstick, right? So the Muppets are family friendly, but the perspective is, again, of course, from these oddities and these weirdos. Some characters are a little more cynical, but they're not too far over the edge. Like my character Pepe, he's a little bit, naughtier than maybe a Muppet would be considered that they should be. But that's okay.
Oh, gracias. I love you too.
So now let's take a broader look at this. Puppetry dates back to as early as the 5th century BC, making it an ancient form of storytelling. This is so important for people to know. And today, much of children's media opts for animated content, but the Muppets seem to find a way to master the art of puppetry while remaining relevant. But why do you believe puppetry continues to hold such significant importance for the younger audiences today?
I think because people know the difference between real connections and CG kind of created ones. There's a certain tactile feeling or something that they're if you want to believe that they're in the real world, that's what we try to create. We try to make it feel like they live among us. And I think if your subconscious wants to believe in this idea, and you want to enjoy that, I think people prefer that feeling that, yes, they're here. I can touch them. I can walk next to them. I can be with them. Versus knowing that something's created in a computer solely and that's separate from you, right? It's not.
There's also, there are lots of puppeteers out there, or puppet programs, I should say, but they don't survive nearly as long. And I think a lot of that is because the Muppets are performed by an incredible cast of performers. They're an extra level. They're an extra step up when it comes to making these foam and fleece creations come alive. And we meet a lot of fans of the Muppets through our show and everything. And I meet so many who are in their 40s, 50s even, who have remained friends with these characters throughout their entire life because they feel so real to them. And they think they really feel that kind of same kind of connection with some of these characters they would a real human being. And the performance does all that.
That's a great point. You're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah, looking back at your I know we're up for time, but looking back at your earlier work, what lessons have you learned that continue to influence your creative decisions today?
Not being afraid, excuse me, simple things that happen during the day, like don't be afraid to stare out the window for an hour if something's catching your attention. And don't be afraid to not be a perfectionist with certain things. Believe that sometimes there's life in a project that hasn't presented itself to you yet. So open yourself up to what's happening when you're not so strict with it. Surrender yourself to it and let things happen. Don't be a control freak about it. That's helped me a lot.
I would say two quick things. One, probably the most important thing is listening. That to me has been a tool that applies to everything. My characters, when I'm performing, really listening to the other performers and being in the moment so that it feels fresh and it feels like it's really happening. And maybe you didn't hear, each time another character says something to your character or to me, it comes out a different way. So you're going to respond slightly in a different way. So it's always something new. But listening is huge. It's really important. And then the other thing I would say is early on, I was pursuing my career as an actor. I never wanted to be a puppeteer. That wasn't anything I ever thought I would ever be. And so I studied acting, and I studied, the idea of interpreting dialogue through my behavior. I studied the Meisner technique with Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. And so that was my focus, right? Acting. And I ended up, my first big gig was this show called Dinosaurs, where I was inside of a suit, and I never spoke any dialogue, but I did the interpreting through my behavior. And a little door opened because I met these other people who worked with the Muppets, and I walked through that door, a door that I never thought, why would I ever go through that door? So I think the lesson for me is never be afraid to go through any doors that are open or open for you, because you can always come back out if that isn't right for you. Just don't be afraid to take a step in, look around. Oh, is this good? Oh, I didn't know I could be a piece of cheese from France. I'll try that character. So, right, that's my thing, is always being open to things that you don't
advice.
expect.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Unless you're a fine artist who creates paintings completely by themselves and they go in a gallery and everything is just about your input, understand the importance of collaboration, because especially in my field, and Billy's, it's all about collaboration. And nobody wants to work with an artist that feels self-important and feels like they've got all the answers. And unless it's this way specifically, it's never going to work. You've got to let yourself feed off of other people, and people will feed off of you, and you'll find ideas you never imagined.
That's great advice.
Huge.
That's great advice. Well, we are officially out of time. You guys are incredibly fun to hang out with. Very, very comedic. But thank you both for coming on. You guys are incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much.
That was Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by Keep the Past. And that was the talented brother duo Gene and Bill Barretta. Definitely check them out online at thebarrettabrothers.com, or you can check them out on Instagram at the Barretta Brothers. And of course, you can see more of Dan by heading to discoveryourpotentialshow.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.